Hi everyone, welcome to the Inspired Design School of Fashion. My name is Jumoke, and in today's class I quickly want to show you how to draft the torso foundation. Well, the torso foundation is a little bit different from the basic bodies because it's, instead of stopping at the waistline, it extends to the hip line, and there are a few adjustments to that. So we're going to start with the front torso pattern, and the measurement we'll be requiring for this, we'll need the bust points, which is for this particular design, pattern that I'm drafting. The bust point is 10.5, which is 10.5. We're going to need the waist length. The waist length is I think 16 inches, and then we're going to need the bust. We don't really need the under bust. We're going to need the hip line or the hip length, which is 24 inches. Then we're going to need the waist circumference, that is 38 inches, which we're going to divide by 4 and use that value. We're going to need the hip circumference, which is 47. We'll divide by 4 also. What else are we going to need? So I think and also we're going to need the across shoulder measurement, or what we call shoulder to shoulder, and that is for this particular one is 16 inches. We'll divide by 2 and use that value. Okay, so without wasting time, let's begin. So first I'm going to draw a guideline at the top of my pattern here. Let me just move this way. I'm going to draw the guideline, just coming a little bit down. So that will be where I'll start my measurement from. Okay, then from that I'm going to measure the bust points, which is 10.5, so it's around here. Then I'm going to insert the waist measurement, which is 16 inches. I'm drafting this pattern without seam allowance because it's going to be a working pattern that will be adjusting and using to create other styles. Okay, then I'm going to insert the hip length, which is 24 inches. Okay, so I'm going to draw a parallel line to those lines. I mean to the points. Okay, so this is the hip line, this is the waist line, and this is the bust line. Okay, now so I'm going to take this as my center front. This is my center front. So from the center front I'm going to measure my across shoulder measurement, which is 16 inches divided by 2, 8 inches. So it's here. Then I'm going to insert the natural neckline, 3 inches by 3 inches. So 3 by 3. Draw the square, 3 by 3. So that's the neckline. Okay, so at the shoulder here I'm going to drop by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, 1 inch, so it's around here. Then draw my the shoulder line. Okay, now for the armhole depth, what usually works for me is to use the across shoulder measurements, half of it, which is 8 inches. So I'll measure that 8 inches from this drop. then add like ½ inch for his. But another way people use, another method people use in calculating is to divide the bust measurement by 4 and subtract it by 1.5. But when you want to take that measurement, you measure from this point. So if I subtract the bust, if I divide the bust by 4, that is 10.5, and I subtract 1.5, that's 9 inches. So if I take 9 inches, it's going to come here. And if I take 8 inches from this drop, it's going to come here. So I'm just going to measure 8 inches to be on the safe side and make sure that my line is straight. Mark 8 inches, then draw the armhole depth. Okay. And usually this armhole depth area is usually the upper chest. Okay, so and then to draw the armhole, I'll find the midpoint of this line, which is 4 inches, and go in by ½ inch. Then use my armhole curve to connect the lines. So this is what my armhole is going to look like. Then we'll come to the bust measurement. They are crossed. Okay, I didn't include the bust when we're saying required area of measurement. Bust is 42. We're going to divide by 4. So 42 divided by 4, that's 10.5. So on the bust line, you're going to measure 10.5. And like I said, I'm not adding seam allowance. Then I'll come to the waistline and insert the waist measurement. The waist circumference is 38 divided by 4. I'm going to have that's how what's the value? That's like 9 inches, I think. 9.5. Let's calculate. Divided by 2, that's 19. 19 divided by 2, that is 8.5. Am I correct? Please, my math is doing somehow today. So 38 divided by 4, that is 9.5. Pardon me for. Okay, now we're going to add the dart intake, and for that intake, to determine the dart intake, there's a chart that is usually used that is based on the bust circumference. I think I gave that chart to us when we're talking about the basic bodies. So for the chart is like for 32 inches bust, the dart intake is 2 3/4, I believe. So from that, every 1 inch increment you add 1/8. So if I'm doing 34, which is 2 increments, I had 1/4 inch, and my dart intake will be 3 inches. So for 42 inches, for bust 42 inches, the dart intake is 3 inches and 3 inches and 3/4. Now we're not going to take all that intake at this point. If you remember in the former draft that I made for us, when we used the Ellen Joseph method, we closed the dart at the waist level to meet the line until we open up a dart at the shoulder level here, at the mid shoulder, because we cannot take all the darts here to create the torso pattern. So we're going to divide it between the darts here and here. So the way I'm doing it, I want to take 1 inch darts. That is like the standard 1 inch dart at the waistline here. Then transfer the remaining part to the shoulder. Although if you like, you can increase it and take like maybe 1 3/4 here or 1.5 here and transfer the remaining one here. But for me, I'm going to take the 1 inch dart here and transfer the remaining here. Also, you can decide to have a 1 dart pattern or torso pattern, or 2 darts. I'm going to be using 2 darts because I want it to be very similar to the other pattern that we already have. I'm teaching you this method because it's easier and requires less measurement and all that. or because some people, if you're a beginner, the other method can be a little bit technical, so that's why I'm showing this, but I still want you to be similar. So I'm taking 1 inch dart. So at the waistline here, I'm going to add 1 inch for the dart. So 1 inch to my 9.5, I'm going to have 10.5. Then at the hip line, the hip measurement is 47. We're going to divide by 4 and we'll have 11.75, I believe. Okay, so let's connect all those lines. I'm going to connect the hip line to the waist, and the waist, from the waist to the bust line, then extend it to the chest area here, which is at the armhole. So this is what it's going to look like. Now our pattern is basically ready. You can just take in your curve to remove the sharp corners here. Okay, and when you start designing, you can also shape this hip area, but we're going to leave it this way for now. Then for the dart, for the front dart, we're going to place at that placement, we'll place it at the bust span. So when you take your nipple to nipple measurement, or what we call the bust span, you divide it by 2. So for this one is 8 inches divided by 2, 4. So I'm just going to, from the center front, I'm going to measure 4 inches from the bust line, then 4 inches here, 4 inches here. So I'm just going to use my pen to connect that line, because I don't want it to be a major part of this pattern. Okay, so this is the line. On that line now, from the bust point, I'm going to come down by 1 inch, 1 inch. Then from the line, I'm going to measure 1 3/4 and draw a straight line. Okay, then I'm going to come to the waistline and come down by 3.5 inches from the waistline, then measure 1 3/4 again. So just to make sure, then I will draw a straight line. Now from this straight line, now I'm going to draw another straight line to connect these 2 points. These 2 points is already connected. I'm going to connect this. So with my red pen now, I'm going to retrace this line here from that 1 inch mark to the 3.5 mark underneath the waistline. Okay, and then connect this one. So like I said, I'm doing 2 darts. You can, if you want to take your darts, you want to make a 1 dart pattern, you don't need this, you just insert the 1 inch dart here, 1/2 inch on both sides. So for this one now, we're splitting that 1 inch into 4, so we have 1/4 of an inch each side. So I'm going to take out 1/4 of an inch, then I'm going to connect. We are going to connect. It's a very tiny dart, and this marker is going to make it bigger than it should be, but okay, so that's the first dart. Then I'm going to take the second dart also, connect to the quarter, okay. All right, so that's it. Now for the remaining dart intake, remember our dart intake for this size, bust 42 is 3 3/4, and we've only taken 1 inch, so we still have 2 3/4 to take. So we're going to take the remaining dart at the shoulder area here. From the bust point, I'm going to go up by 1 inch, 2 inches, 2 inches. Then find the midpoint at the shoulder, the shoulder length. Find the midpoint, which is like 2.5. Then draw a straight line to connect those 2 points. Okay, then I'm going to measure my 2 3/4 from this point, 2 3/4, which is somewhere around here at the end of the shoulder, a little bit extending beyond the shoulder actually. Now if I take away all these dots, my shoulder will be incomplete. So what we have always learned is that whatever you borrow, whatever that you take away is a loan that you have to return. So I'm going to extend the shoulder line by 2 3/4 to replace that dot, or to replace the dot. Just extend it by 2 3/4. Then I'm going to come to the mid armhole point here, which is around here, and find the dart intake that was taken at that point is like 1 1/4. So from this point now, from this inward curve, I'm going to measure 1 1/4, which is around here. Then I'll redraw my armhole from this point. Find a good point to place your armhole curve and redraw. And we have our pattern. So this is the pattern, but when we cut this out, remember that except your as a design, you want it as a design, usually the shoulder that is usually moved to the side here. So on the side line here, parallel to the bust point, you're going to draw a slash line. You draw a slash line to the side seam. Then draw a slash line from the dart point to the what's it called here, to the bust point. Then we're going to cut it out so that we can move our dart to the side here. So I'm going to cut this out. Then cut out your darts. Then we're going to slash this to the bust point, but not through it. We're not cutting it out. Okay. Then we'll slash this also. You should remember this from our module 3, where we did that manipulation. So this is going to overlap a little here. Okay, so you close this, and we're going to close this. Then we're going to get your working pattern. Now you're going to place this pattern on another plain paper. Then draw this, redraw the what's it called, the shoulder line to be balanced. You can see that the one is extending above the other, so we're going to draw it to be balanced. We redraw it. I think I taught this in the other method, so I really don't want to spend too much time on it. So we're going to redraw it to be, connect it, just adjust it a bit to be straight. So but for the dart here, we also know that we don't always extend it up to the pivotal point, which is the bust point. So you would redraw your dart leg by coming down here by 1 inch, then you redraw the dart leg. We've done a lot about dart manipulation in the third module. So this is just the basic dart manipulation method, moving the dart from the shoulder to the side dart. So that will be your working pattern. So that's it for the front bodies, torso pattern. Now we'll go on to the back. So for the back, I'm just going to draw. So we'll still be using most of the measurements we already have. Okay, just drawing a straight line. So with my because I want to drag towards this side, so I'm going to estimate the length I need. So with the hip measurement, that's the biggest part. Is like I need like maybe my hip is 37 divided by 4 is 11.75 or so. I'm just going to measure 13 inches here. 13 inches to draw my line from this line here. 13 inches, which is somewhere around here. So I'm going to draw a straight line up. Extend the line at the top here. We've not started drafting, so don't be confused. We've not started drafting, so we're just starting now. So this is my center back here. From the center back, I'm going to take in 3 inches for the neck width. Come down by 1 inch. That is standard, except you have the measurement. You can use measurement for your clients. Okay, so the across shoulder measurement is 8 inches. Come down by 1 inch, then connect. Okay, then armhole depth of 8 inches also. Okay. Okay, so find the midpoints, which is at 4 inches. So the back doesn't require any ease, so I'm just going to connect from this point, midpoint here. So that's the back armhole. Then okay, let's take the we really don't need the bust measurement. We need the waist length, which is 16 inches. So the 16 inches here. So I'm going to draw my 16 inches. I'm just drawing a straight line. Then on that line, okay, let's take the hip measurements, hip length also 24 inches. Okay, make sure your lines are straight. Then on the waist, I'm going to insert the waist measurements. So the waist measurement is sorry, I'm a little bit off. 38 inches. So 38 divided by 4. 38 divided by 4, 9.5. We did the calculation the other time. 9.5. Then you add your dart intake of 2 inches. So 9.5, 10.5, 11.5. So 11.5 is here. And then the waist, the hip is 42 inches divided by 4. That's 42, 10.5. No, sorry, the hip is 47. So 11.75. 11.75. Okay, the bust points. We need to take the bust points. 10.5. 10.5 is here. Then on the bust point, we're going to, okay, from the bust point we're going to measure the bust circumference 42, which is 10.5. So let's connect the lines. So now to take in the darts. For the darts, we're going to come down by 1 inch from this side line here. So it's just around this bust point. So the dart placement from the center back, I'm going to measure 3.25. 3.25 here. 3.25. Then from the waistline, I'm going to come down by 5.5, which is around here. So I'll draw a straight line from this point now to join that 5.5 underneath the waistline. Okay, then from these points I'm going to measure 2.25, which is somewhere here. Then here 2.25. Just like for the front we use 1.75. For this part is 2.25. Then I connect the lines. Like I said, the dart intake is 2 inches, so we split it between the two darts, which is ½ inch on both sides. So I'm going to measure excuse me, ½ inch on both sides, ½ inch here. Then connect. So if you've drawn a draft of the Ellen Joseph by using the Ellen Joseph method, if you've drafted the torso pattern and you draft this one, you can put it together and check. You find out that the difference, if there is any, will be very, very minimal. It will be very minimal. It's going to be negligible. Okay, so this is it. Now if you want a shoulder dart, we're going to find the center, draw the line towards this point and take your 3 inches dart. Then mark the 3 inches down, then take 1/4 of an inch on both sides, and then that's half inch. You can now extend this by half inch, but we're not going to be putting shoulder dart because most time for most design we really don't need that shoulder dart, and we have to be looking for a way to remove it. So with that, our back pattern is ready, and I have not added any seam to this. Also, I didn't add zipper allowance. Like I said, it's a working pattern. So if you want to make your final pattern and you are ready to add your zipper allowance is usually 3/4 of an inch. But I know some people will say, hey, how can I leave 3/4 of an inch for it's too small, I want to leave 2 inches. Well, that's the standard and it works. You don't actually need more than that. You know, when you add extra seam to your patterns or to your fabric when you are cutting, in the fear of, okay, I don't want to make mistakes, so that if I make mistake, there's I always have a fallback. It's good if you're a beginner, you can be doing that, but you should work towards getting out of that so that you can be drafting your pattern correctly, because all those added excesses will affect the finished product or finished garment. So that's it. We're done for the back and the front torso pattern. Thank you for joining me. See you next time. Bye.